Gay, the Temptations, the Miracles, yeah, the whole Motown bunch, and Mitch Ryder was before me.
Bob Seger doesn't demand your attention with flashy performances or loud spectacles. He simply sings, and when he does, people across America stop what they're doing and listen. For more than 5 decades, his distinctive voice has provided the musical backdrop for working people everywhere. He's the artist who transformed late-night moments and long highway drives into memorable songs that continue to play on radio stations across the country. The people who work in his office have been part of his team for years, creating a stable, family-like atmosphere. Seger never set out to become a superstar or chase fame. His goal was always much simpler and more authentic, to tell stories about everyday life and the experiences of regular people. While there may be singers with more technically impressive voices or flashier stage presence, nobody sounds quite like Bob Seger. His voice is unique and irreplaceable. He discovered his musical identity performing in Detroit bars during his early years, and he never abandoned that raw, honest sound, even as his career grew. Even as the music industry became louder and more commercial over the decades, Seger remained consistent. He stayed honest and direct in his approach, avoiding gimmicks and pretense. He was simply a man with a guitar who had important things to say about the experience of growing up, the process of aging, and all the complicated moments that happened between youth and old age. The Silver Bullet Band was far more than just a group of musicians who played behind him. They were his brothers, his extended family, and the essential sound that made his stories feel complete and powerful. Working together, they created music that felt comfortable and familiar, like coming home, regardless of which city they happened to be performing in. Hidden within all those albums and countless concert tours are 5 particular songs that hold special meaning for Seger. These are the songs that felt genuine and true when everything else in the music world seemed like empty noise. These 5 tracks represent Bob Seger's personal favorites, the ones that still hold deep significance when the stage lights dim and the crowds go home. These are the songs he has never questioned or changed his mind about over all these years. The 5th song on this list is Old Time Rock and Roll. Some songs come into existence almost by accident, and this particular track became a defining anthem for America. The song wasn't originally intended to be anything special or groundbreaking. It started as a B-side track, essentially a throwaway recording that Seger nearly decided not to record at all. The creative process involved experimentation with different volume levels and dynamics in the studio. Sometimes the songs that artists don't carefully plan become the ones that stick around forever. This song grabbed hold of something much larger than just music itself. It captured a particular feeling that resonated deeply with millions of people. The late 1970s represented a strange and transitional period in American music. Disco music dominated the airwaves and dance floors. Rock music was evolving in ways that made it more complicated, more electronic, and somehow more distant from its roots. Many people felt disconnected, as though they were losing touch with something authentic and real. Then Seger entered the recording studio with a remarkably simple concept. The song featured just 3 chords, a straightforward rhythm, and lyrics that expressed what countless people were already thinking and feeling. The words asked for that old-time rock and roll back again. The lyrics weren't fancy or trying to be clever. They were simply true and honest. The Silver Bullet Band understood the song immediately and locked into the groove without overthinking anything. They played it as though they had been performing this exact song their entire lives. The piano parts pounded with energy, the drums kicked hard, and Seger sang with the passion of someone defending something precious and valuable, which is exactly what he was doing. He was defending the fundamental idea that music should make listeners feel something emotional and real, not just engage their intellect or seem impressive. Nobody could have predicted what happened after the song's release. It didn't simply become a popular hit song. It transformed into a rallying cry for anyone who missed the days when things felt simpler and more straightforward. Wedding bands added it to their standard repertoire. Sports arenas played it to energize crowds. Filmmakers incorporated it into their movies. The famous scene in the movie Risky Business, featuring Tom Cruise dancing in his underwear, made the song achieve immortal status in popular culture. Suddenly, everyone in America could recognize those distinctive opening piano notes. Here's the surprising twist that Seger never anticipated. A song that was explicitly looking backward and longing for the past somehow became timeless and relevant to every generation. Each new generation of listeners since then has adopted it as their own anthem. The reason is that old-time rock and roll isn't really about nostalgia for the past. It's about craving something authentic and genuine in a world that keeps becoming more artificial and fake. It's about holding tightly to the values and things that truly matter when everything around you is changing at an overwhelming pace.
Seger continues to perform this song at every concert, and every night the audience responds with wild enthusiasm. They don't react this way because they're feeling nostalgic. They respond because the song is fundamentally honest. In a contemporary world filled with overly complicated music and production techniques, sometimes people just need something simple and direct. Sometimes you need a song that helps you remember your true identity and values. The fourth favorite song is We've Got Tonight. Some songs make promises that cannot possibly be kept. This particular song was honest about that reality from the beginning. The song emerged from an emotional place that Seger rarely explored in his music. It wasn't about the highway, the factory floor, or the small-town bar. This song came directly from loneliness, the pure, simple, universal human experience of feeling alone. Instead of fighting against this feeling or hiding it, he embraced it openly and honestly. This wasn't meant to be a conventional love song. It was designed to reflect real life as people actually experience it. The song tells the story of two people, both feeling tired and lonely, who find each other for just one night. There are no promises of forever, no fairy tale endings waiting around the corner. Just tonight, just this present moment, just two honest people acknowledging what they needed from each other. Seger wrote the song in approximately 20 minutes, but it took him many years to fully understand why it resonated so deeply with audiences. The recording session had a different character than usual. Typically, the Silver Bullet Band came into the studio with full force, bringing tremendous energy and power to every track. For this particular song, however, Seger began alone, with just himself and a piano, singing to an empty room. The vulnerability audible in his voice was completely raw and unprotected. Listeners could hear him thinking through every single word, genuinely feeling every line he sang. When the band members finally joined the recording, they played much softer than their typical style, as though they instinctively understood this wasn't going to be their usual powerful anthem. What made the song truly special wasn't the musical arrangement or technical production, it was the unflinching honesty. Seger wasn't attempting to be romantic in a traditional sense or poetic in his word choices. He was being practical and realistic. The lyrics acknowledge that it's late at night and that the other person is weary and exhausted. He wasn't making promises that tomorrow would somehow be better or different. He was simply asking for tonight, for this moment. Somehow, that practical, honest approach made it more genuinely romantic than countless conventional love songs that promise everything. The song grew bigger than Seger initially expected it would. Kenny Rogers and Sheena Easton transformed it into a popular duet version. Many other artists recorded their own cover versions. However, none of these other versions captured what Seeger understood from the very beginning. This song wasn't fundamentally about romantic love. It was about human connection, about finding someone who understands that sometimes people don't need promises of forever. Sometimes they just need something real and meaningful right now, in this present moment. Even today, when Seeger performs this song during live concerts, the entire arena becomes quiet. People stop their conversations and stop moving around because everyone in that audience has experienced that kind of night. Everyone has felt that particular brand of loneliness at some point. For 3.5 minutes, they remember exactly what it felt like to find another person who truly understood their feelings. The third song is Turn the Page. Loneliness has a distinctive sound, and this song captures it perfectly. The track wasn't written with radio airplay in mind. It wasn't created to climb the charts or achieve commercial success. It was written for every person who has ever felt like an outsider. Every soul who walked into a room and felt like they simply didn't belong there. Somehow, that specific, personal feeling made the song universal in its appeal. The song emerged from Seeger's experiences on the road during years of touring. He spent countless hours on endless highways, stopping at truck stops and staying in hotel rooms that all looked identical and impersonal. Fame was supposed to make life easier and more fulfilling. Instead, it often made him feel more isolated and alone. The saxophone introduction, played by alto reed, doesn't just start the song, it establishes the entire mood for everything that follows. The sound is low and haunting, like an intimate conversation between strangers meeting on a midnight highway. Then, Seeger's voice enters, sounding tired but not defeated, telling the real story of what fame actually costs a person. The lyrics explore motorcycle imagery, long rides leading nowhere in particular, and faces in crowds who never really see the person behind the fame. The Silver Bullet Band recognized immediately that this song required a different approach. They played it like a prayer, like something sacred and important. There was no showing off, no flashy instrumental work, just steady rhythm and atmospheric sound, creating space for the loneliness to exist and breathe naturally. That's what the song genuinely needed: space to express sadness, space to be completely real, space to admit that success and fame don't fix all of life's problems.
What nobody anticipated was how many different types of people would connect deeply with this song. Truck drivers, traveling salespeople, and anyone who spent their life constantly on the road claimed it as their personal anthem. But the connection went much deeper than just people who literally traveled for work. Office workers trapped in cubicles felt the song's message too. Parents staying home to raise children identified with it. Anyone who ever felt misunderstood by others, anyone who felt like they were performing their life instead of authentically living it, found meaning in these lyrics. The heavy metal band Metallica recorded a cover version years later and made the arrangement heavier and angrier, but they preserved the core essence intact. They kept that essential feeling of being trapped between who you truly are and who other people expect you to be. That's what Turn the Page really represents at its core. It's not specifically about being a rock star or touring musician. It's about being human in a world that constantly wants you to be something different than your authentic self. Seeger continues to perform this song on every tour, and it still creates the same emotional impact because loneliness is a timeless human experience that never becomes outdated. The second song on Seeger's list of favorites is Against the Wind. Time doesn't ask for anyone's permission before it takes what it wants. This song emerged when Bob Seger was 35 years old and suddenly felt the weight of every one of those years. The wild nights of his youth were behind him now. His dreams had changed, not becoming smaller exactly, but definitely more realistic and grounded. Somehow, that maturity and realistic perspective made this song more powerful than any anthem he had ever written before. The song wasn't born inside a recording studio, it came to life during a long drive through the Michigan countryside. Seger watched the landscape constantly changing outside his window and thought about how absolutely everything changes in life, whether people want it to or not. Friends move away to different cities, dreams shift and transform, the person you believed you would be forever gradually turns into someone else, one day at a time. And all anyone can do is keep moving forward, even when it feels like fighting against a powerful wind. The Silver Bullet Band captured something genuinely special during this recording session. They didn't try to make the song sound youthful or artificially energetic, they allowed it to sound tired and weathered, like a favorite jacket that has been through everything with you over many years. The guitar parts were gentle but showed quiet determination. The drums maintained steady time, like a heartbeat that simply refuses to quit. Seger's voice carried the heavy weight of life experience without sounding bitter or resentful about it. What made Against the Wind genuinely different was its honest approach to aging and the passage of time. Most rock songs pretended that people could somehow stay young forever. This song openly admitted that time eventually wins every battle. But people keep fighting anyway because that's what living means. The phrase about running against the wind became much more than just a lyric in a song, it became a complete philosophy about life. The message is to keep pushing forward even when absolutely everything feels impossible and overwhelming. The song connected with audiences in ways that surprised Seger. It wasn't only older listeners remembering their own youth with fondness, young people heard the song and understood it was about much more than just aging. It addressed persistence, the conscious choice to keep trying when giving up would be so much easier, and finding inner strength by accepting that life is inherently difficult. But that acceptance doesn't mean people should stop living fully. Live performances of Against the Wind became powerful moments of shared communion between performer and audience. The entire arena would sing along together, with voices mixing and blending into something that felt almost like a collective prayer. Everyone understood the feeling being expressed because everyone had run against their own personal wind at some point and kept going anyway, despite the difficulty. Seger once reflected that this was the song that taught him an important lesson. Growing up doesn't mean giving up on life. It simply means choosing your battles more carefully and wisely. The #1 song, Seger's absolute favorite, is Night Moves. Some songs function as confessions, but this one operates as a time machine. The track didn't just capture a specific moment from Bob Seger's personal past, it somehow captured everyone's past simultaneously. That sweet, awkward, desperate time when people are young and everything feels endlessly possible, even when they have absolutely no idea what they're actually doing. Singing about those youthful experiences as a grown man made them more beautiful and meaningful, not less so. The song emerged from genuine memory rather than simple nostalgia. Seger was in his 30s, professionally successful, but something felt missing from his life. He started thinking deeply about being 16 years old in Detroit. He remembered summer nights, cheap cars, and a girl whose name he could still recall perfectly. The awkward fumbling around, the big plans that never actually happened, the way absolutely everything felt so monumentally important back then. Most people keep those intimate memories private and locked away. Seger transformed his memories into a genuine masterpiece of songwriting. Recording Night Moves felt distinctly different from anything the Silver Bullet Band had created before. Usually they entered the studio loud and proud, but this particular song needed something much gentler and more intimate. The acoustic guitar carried the melody like a quiet whisper. The vocals were soft and almost conversational in tone. Seger wasn't performing the song in a theatrical sense. He was sharing something personal, like sitting down with close friends and telling them something you had never told anyone else before. The true genius lay in what the song deliberately didn't say or explain. It never provided exact details about what happened during those nights. It simply conveyed the feeling itself, the uncertainty, the excitement.
The way young love feels like the single most important thing in the entire world, even when you somehow know it probably isn't. The night moves referenced in the title weren't only physical actions, they were emotional and spiritual movements, the exploratory moves people make when they're trying to figure out their true identity. When the song reached radio stations, something magical occurred. It wasn't just older listeners remembering their own youth with fondness. Young people heard the song and found that it helped them understand their own current feelings better. That's because Night Moves isn't really about the past at all. It's about that universal moment when innocence gradually starts turning into experience, when childhood begins transforming into memory that you carry with you. The song became Seger's signature track, but it never felt calculated or commercially designed. Every single time he performs it during live concerts, it feels personal and immediate, as though he's discovering those precious memories again for the first time. That's what truly great songs accomplish. They don't simply remind you of who you used to be in the past, they remind you that the person you were still lives inside the person you are today. Night Moves proved conclusively that looking backward with honesty can actually be the most genuine way to move forward in life. These 5 songs weren't simply hit records that sold well. They were chapters in America's larger story, moments when one man's personal truth somehow became everyone's anthem. Seger never chased after greatness or fame. He simply stayed authentic and real, and greatness eventually found him because of that authenticity.